Hey everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Head. And hopefully you like this video and smash that subscribe button. I would mention, we get started, we have memberships here. We'd really love to get more members on here. Simple thing, you go in, this is a little join button on if you're on your phone or on your computer, you just go there and you join, become a member, become part of the club of the Baseball Hut. It's a great way to donate every month, and it makes me feel good. But so we're beginning of the new year, January 4th, I think, and all's quiet. But that's how it is. I do expect, and I continue to expect that the Mets will re-sign Peter Alonso to a contract, but it's going to be a while. I was hoping that we would see some movement before that, but that's okay. And I expect Alex Bregman to sign fairly soon. Where he will sign, that'll be an interesting footnote as we get closer to pitchers and catchers, which is, I think, is 39 days from today. So very exciting. So I have this article, and it's about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's been sort of a polarizing figure here on the channel. I put my own 2 cents in on it. But I have a sort of a compromise view. We'll talk about this proposed trade, this prediction, not by me. And then we have compromise. I think it's a pretty good compromise. Sure, people won't like it, but that's okay. I would mention, if you write to me, please be nice. There's no reason to be nasty. There's no reason to be nasty. I mean, really. I'm not grumpy. I'm more grumpy than anything else. But anyway, this is from the Sporting News. Mets predicted to make Blockbuster trade for $427 million superstar. New York Mets made the biggest move at the offseason when they signed Juan Soto to a 15-year, $765 million contract. However, there is another superstar they could potentially add as well. The Toronto Blue Jays could lose Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in free agency next winter after failing to bring in more star talent around him. They could trade him for some return before he potentially walks. Bye. Sportskeeda's Jared Bloom predicted they would trade him to the Mets. Okay? Now, where does he come up with this? I don't know. Bloom's side, the Blue Jays failed to live up to the hype with Guerrero on their team. Mets could be in need of a first baseman. Guerrero is one of the best in baseball. If Pete Alonso leaves in free agency, a deal for Guerrero makes a lot of sense. However, the Mets would run the risk of dealing valuable prospects and lose Guerrero in free agency next winter. If the Mets were to make a deal like this, they wouldn't do what the Yankees did. They wouldn't do what the Yankees did. The Yankees made that trade for Juan Soto and they let him walk. Didn't want him bad enough. The Mets and Steve Cohen would have to feel confident in their ability to sign him to a long-term deal next winter. Sport Track projects him to sign a 12-year, $427 million deal next winter. I think that is very light. He's going to be looking for $500. He's going to be looking for $500, based upon his age. Just based on that. Cohen has shown that spending money is not going to stand in the way of him getting the Mets to the World Series. Well, we know that. Mets going to get to the World Series. Signing Guerrero one offseason after signing Soto is exactly the kind of move Cohen would make. Guerrero is a 4-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, and Gold Glover. He had 30 home runs last season and had a .323 batting average. Guerrero would be an upgrade over Alonso, which is not an easy feat. Now, I would mention, the last 2 years, we're talking about Guerrero at age 24 and 25, hit 54 home runs. Let's keep that in mind. He hit 54 homers, 24 homers in 2023, and 30 home runs in 2024. At age, I'm just putting the statistic out, it's all out there. At age 24 and 25, Pete Alonso had 69 home runs. And one of those years was the COVID year where the government shut everything down. And we lost 100 games in the schedule. So, and I would mention, so for 2 years, again, Soto hit 54 home runs. The first year, at similar age, Pete Alonso hit 53 homers. And then the following year, during the COVID season, 16. He would have hit another 30 and would have just completely destroyed those ages. It's just to keep perspective on what we're talking about here. And in some ways. But I would say this. Let's have a compromise. Compromise is this. Mets make a trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but they do not put him at first. They put him at third base. He came up as a third baseman. You put him at third. For us that want to keep Pete Alonso, you sign Pete Alonso to an extension, and you have him play first. And you have insurance that you have someone in your organization that could take over for Pete if you let Pete walk. If he has a contract, say, and he has an opt-out after the first year and he leaves, then you could just put Guerrero at first. How about that? Isn't that a pretty good lineup? I think that's a pretty damn good lineup. I think it's pretty damn good, to be honest with you. And gives you that's a lot of firepower, boy. That is a lot of firepower. Wouldn't that excite a lot of people? Have them both in the Mets lineup? And you have Vientos as a DH? And Juan Soto? And Francisco Lindor? Oh my God, overload. Overload of superstars. But that's what's so great about being a Mets fan these days, is that you could dream about all this stuff and make a move. Now, what would it take? Again, I have not had a chance to. I like to come up with a trade that makes sense. See, I like to come up with trades not based off of baseball savant. Okay, I'm the baseball savant. So all I need to do for myself, if I want to come up with a trade for, say, for whatever, say the Blue Jays. I don't know what the Blue Jays need in their organization. I don't know if they need pitching, they need infielders, outfielders, or catcher. But I'd like to go and see just to check. You can do this on your own. You don't need the baseball savant. I know some channels do that. I don't need to do that. Okay? All I got to do is see what they have, what their needs are, say for the Blue Jays, and just sort of figure out who I can plug in terms of what I can give them in my organization, which is the Mets organization. I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, Mets made a big trade for Francisco Lindor. And the Mets made that trade, but about a month before that, or maybe a little before that, maybe a month and a half before that, I came up with my own trade. And it was essentially the same pieces. I thought they needed to trade Ahmed Rosario in that deal. He went. The only things that were different in that deal was the minor leaguers, two minor leaguers in it, and Andres Jimenez. At the time, I thought that Brandon Nimo would be good in that deal, because at the time Nimo wasn't really an everyday player. He was hurt a lot, and he was an outfielder. And of course, at the time, I felt that the Guardians at the time needed an outfielder. So I thought that made sense, and I thought, well, I'll give them two pitchers. Or maybe one was a pitcher and another infielder. And I came up with that deal. And it was pretty much the same kind of deal. It was 4 players for Lindor. And it turned out to be one of the great deals in the history of the Mets. But I could come up with a deal like this. I got to sit down and think about it and look it up online. But if I have the time. But we'll figure that. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But that is the compromise. You make the deal for Guerrero. You put Pete at first. You put Vientos in as the DH. And away you go. And then you have a very powerful lineup. You put a defensive outfielder in center field. And there you go. Now, I would mention, if that does not occur, they don't make a deal for Guerrero and you re-sign Pete. You have Vientos at first. I think the future of this team, one of the things that this team should look at moving forward is putting Brandon Nimo as a designated hitter at some point. Just to get him off his feet in terms of playing in the field. He plays very hard. We all know that. And obviously he has some issues with his legs. We saw that he had a big problem with his foot last year, which is a very common malady for people. I've had that plantar fasciitis. It's painful, and it comes and goes. It comes and goes. It doesn't stick around. You could be, for instance, I would be driving somewhere, driving from work, and get out of the car. I couldn't walk because the pain was like sticking a knife to your foot, and then it goes away. I had that for over a year. I had it in one foot, and then it went to the other foot, and then it's gone away. I haven't had it in 2-3 years. So it's a very strange kind of pain and a very strange ailment. But I think that sort of the future for particularly Brandon Nimo is to put him as a designated hitter at some point for the Mets. And he's getting up there in age himself. He's 32 years old, But that's something that the Mets should seriously consider. Even for this year, to have him play some games as a DH just to get him off his feet. And, of course, get Siri in there and Taylor in there more in terms of that defense. And we'll see. But let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, please subscribe. I have memberships here. I want to get more members in here. And, of course, send me any super thanks you can. And, of course, thank you for watching. And I'll see you later.